Welcome to Handy Tips for new SCAL5 owners. The purpose of this video is to cover some of the typical questions and issues that we see posted by new owners and sometimes somewhat experienced owners of SureCuts-A-Lot. Before I get started, Rob and I want to thank you for purchasing SCAL through Scrappy-Doo. Please contact us if you ever have any questions or problems with the software. Note that we have a Facebook group, Let's Learn Cricut, SCAL, and MTC. You're certainly welcome to join that, especially if you're into Facebook groups. You can also reach us at the Scrappy-Doo Creations Facebook page. And finally, you can also reach us by going to the scrappydoo.com website and clicking on Contact Us down here at the bottom of the page. Now let's get on with some of the handy tips. First of all, over here on the right, you're going to see what's called the document panel, and there are various functions here that you're going to find very useful as you're learning SCAL. One of the things that can get annoying is trying to manage all these because you run out of room even when you can add extra ones on here. For example, I've got the layers and the style and layers, and as you add other ones here, is that it gets to be kind of crowded. So you can just pop these out. See these little arrows? Just pop those out, all right, and then you can come and you can stretch them out. And so that can be very handy if you're having to access one or another all the time. And then when you're done with it, just click on here to close it. The next thing involves the workable area. I'm just going to add like a rectangle here, and you'll notice when you first install SCAL that you can't move anything beyond the edges of the mat, and that can get very annoying because sometimes you have a lot of shapes here and you'd like to kind of store some of them over here to the right. So the way to deal with that is to go to Edit, Preferences, and click on the Edit tab, and then uncheck this box, Keep Objects on Mat when dragging. I'm not really sure why that option's even there because I don't know of anybody who wants it that way. And now then you can move your shapes wherever you want to, on the available screen. The next item involves importing SVG files into SureCuts-A-Lot. Go to Edit Preferences again, and on this General tab you will see a setting called SVG DPI, and in this drop-down menu are several different programs. Now sometimes these programs will change what DPI they use for their SVG files, so you may have to experiment, but for sure if you are importing an SVG file and you go, wait a minute, this whole design is supposed to be 8.5 by 11 and it's only, I don't know, let's say 5 by 7 or whatever, the problem is that you have the wrong DPI selected here. And so in general, I recommend keeping it at 72 and then see how it works. And then again, if it's just the wrong size, then you can change it. Also, be sure when you're getting the SVG file from let's say a website or something, a blog, or you've purchased it, read the README text or whatever text file may come along with that file. Sometimes the designers know exactly what DPI that you should be selecting in another program, such as SureCuts-A-Lot, to get the sizing to be correct. Along the same lines, there is another DPI setting, and that's when you're exporting files or shapes as an SVG file. So to do that, you're going to go under File, Export, and then you're going to give yourself, a name, whatever file name you want, and pay attention where you're saving it. For example, I'm going to save it to my desktop right now, and I'm going to give it the name just Test. Then when I click on Save, a new window opens, and in this window, you'll notice that there's a resolution and there's several settings. For right now, I'm going to uncheck this. If you're exporting it to some other program, let's say you're sending it to the Scan and Cut Canvas program, or whatever the Scan and Cut users have, you'll want to change this to 96 because that's what that software uses. But again, you're going to need to know if you're sending it somewhere else or you're just sharing the file with somebody, when they get ready to import it, may be the wrong size file, and that's where this controls exactly the sizing that's used. If you're a Cricut owner, then you can have this set to anything. It doesn't really matter because you're going to mark this option down here, Design Space Compatible. And that's an important thing to do when, again, you're using the Cricut Design Space software. Notice something else. Show reg marks, that's only if you're exporting it for a print and cut application, otherwise leave it unchecked. This one here, the selection only, this is one that a lot of people feel like they have to mark this. You do and you don't. If you have it unmarked, then it's going to send both this flower and this heart into the SVG file. If you mark this option selection only, then it's only going to include this heart shape. So if you have a file that has a lot of shapes and you only want certain shapes to be put into the SVG file, then mark them all and then mark this option here. Otherwise, it's going to send everything that's in the file. The next item is the disappearing library. Now, I don't know if there's something else that can cause this to happen, but for sure one way to do it is if you just say, you know what, this library is annoying me, I'm just going to drag it off the screen for right now. Well, once you drag it off the screen, it is kind of gone. But don't worry. And it's kind of funny because you think, well, I'll just close the software and reopen. That won't bring it back. Here's the way to bring it back. Because also, you think, well, if I just click on library, it comes back. That doesn't work either. It's still hidden. But to get it back, go to Window, Workspace, and then click on either Basic or Advanced, and it will pop right back up. And then you can come back and make your window, maximize your window again, but that's how to get the library back. Instead, you can just always, if you don't want the library, just close it when you don't want it, and then you can always come back and click on Library to reopen it. This next one involves the question, why can't I see my shape I've just imported? So you can see I have something selected, but you can't see what it is. And I can see my other shape that I already have in here, but I can't see this one. You'll notice that when I hover my mouse in the middle of what this selection is, then I can see the shape, but as soon as I move my mouse away, I can't see it. So how do I fix that? Well, first of all, come over to the Fill and Stroke panel, and I'm going to, that's this one that looks like an artist palette, and I'm going to pop it out. And then when I bring it over, you'll notice that the fill is set to none and the stroke is set to none. That's why I can't see anything. So I can turn one or the other or both on. If I turn on the fill color, then there's the fill, I can see it, and then the stroke, I can turn that on and it puts like this thin black outline around it. So that's the way to basically see that problem. Now that's not the only reason you might not be able to see it. Let me go back and let's say the stroke is set to none and the fill color is the only thing on there. If I still can't see it and I have a color on it, well, check your opacity first, because you'll notice that this changes like how dark or how bright the shape is. I can make that invisible by sending the opacity all the way to the left and making it 0%. Now I can't see it. So check that also if you see that you have a fill color. And the same thing works for the stroke. It'll work the same way. The other thing that can cause this problem is, let's pop out the document panel. On the document panel, there's a workspace alpha. Now notice that when it is sent all the way, all of the shapes basically go away. Now the particular treble clef, I can still see it because it has a stroke applied to it, all right? But you can see it loses its fill color. And of course, because I didn't have a stroke on the cat, I can't see it at all. Similar to the invisible shapes is another kind of issue that new owners will often run into. Here I have 3 different layers here. This first one, this one down at the bottom, this is a clip art image. It's a JPEG image that I brought in. And then I have 2 vector images. I have this one, a summer, and you'll look, if you notice here on the fill and stroke panel, it's got an orange fill, and it has a thick black outline. I've set it to a width of 3, so it has a nice black outline. And then the third one is the seahorse, and it doesn't have a stroke. Okay, it has none on it, and it has a fill color. Now then, this is the setting that users will often, if they're trying to figure out, let's say they're trying to figure out something else is going on, and so they'll click on this and they won't think to uncheck it. This is what happens if you have this turned on for these type of images. First of all, if you've imported clip art, it looks like this. It's totally disappeared. So if you have any clip art you brought in, a PNG, a BMP, a JPEG file, okay, and you can't see anything, check this first, show outlines only. Here for the summer, which had a nice thick black outline, you can see that outline, and of course the fill is missing because it's show outlines only, but you do see the thickness of the stroke. And then finally, even though this seahorse that has the stroke set to none, the programmer did make sure that even when you have show outlines only, you can still see the outline, even though the stroke is set to none. You can at least see the shape so that you don't have another invisible shape that you're dealing with. So anyway, that's basically what you need to know about this particular show outlines only issue. The next one involves when you cannot select anything on the screen. You're clicking on it and nothing is happening. The first thing to check is the layers panel. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to pop out the layers panel, and you'll see this little lock. Sometimes when you get a file from someone or download or whatever, they will lock all the layers just to kind of keep them from inadvertently moving. So check that first, and of course once I unlock it, then I can come over and I can select it. You'll also see that when I click on any one of these shapes, it selects all of them. I can't select one individually, and that's because they're grouped together. So if you don't want to ungroup it, but you want to just work with one of the shapes, then you can open up the group and then just select that particular layer. And then once you have that layer selected, then you can move it separately from the group. All right. And of course, if you want to ungroup, there's lots of different ways you can ungroup. There's different ways you can merge and weld and all sorts of different functions. And this is where you'll want to read the user manual that I wrote or watch one of the videos. And I will get to more of that later. The next tip I want to talk about is keeping your software updated. SureCuts comes out with updates regularly, and as long as it's a version 5 update, it's going to be free to use. So I strongly encourage you to update it, because often these updates are fixes for bugs that are affecting different functions within the software or even certain cutters. A few things to kind of note about this. First of all, if you go to Help and you go to Check for Updates, this doesn't work. All right, now it says right here I'm on 5.056 and it's currently the newest version. That's true. But if a version 5.057 came out, this would still pop up and tell me that I'm up to date. All right, or even if it's all the way up to 5.061, it's still going to say it's up to date, because 99% of the time this function is broken. So don't ever count on it. That's kind of one of the reasons it's good to join the Facebook group if you are into Facebook groups, because typically they get announced there when there's an update. Instead, you want to go, every so often, I recommend going to Craft Edge website, which is the developer's website, and click on Downloads. Now, even here, when you get ready to update, let's say you come here and you say, well, am I on the latest version? First of all, you don't have to use this. Support downloads. This is for older versions, version 4 and older. Otherwise, come down and pick whichever one you own. I'm going to click on SureCuts5. And even here, you'll see that the latest version here says 5.051, but that's not true. It's 5.056. The developer's great at fixing bugs and working on his software, maybe not so great at keeping his website updated or that check for updates. So this is the only way to really know, is you need to just come down and pick on whichever one whichever operating system you have. Let's say I'm going to go for the PC 64-bit. When I click on it, you'll see that it comes up and it says this is the version number right here, 5.056. That is the #1 way to know whether or not there's an update. And I realize that's a bit tedious, but that's just the way life is. That's how you know. And if, of course, if it's a newer number than what you're running, then go ahead and download it and install it right on top of your existing one. You will not have to re-enter your registration number. Just download and install. Saving files. It's so important to be saving your files as you're designing things, because you don't want to have to redo things. Now, SCAL does have like an auto save thing that's happening, but sometimes it works 90% of the time, but not 100% of the time. So I always advise using File Save Project. Don't use Export as SVG. That's what you use if you need to take your file into a different program. Just in terms of using SureCuts for designing, always use File Save Project or Save Project As, so that you have that version. Same thing is if you run into problems with a file and someone on Facebook wants to help you, or one of us, either Robert or myself, are going to help you. This is the version we need. And when you save Project As, the version type is SCAL5. That's what we need, not SVG, but SCAL5. And the reason for that is because an SVG file doesn't save multiple pages within your file. It doesn't save if you've imported a raster image, some sort of clip art that you're tracing. It's not going to save that. It also doesn't save some of the other settings that may be pertinent to that particular file. So please always use the SCAL5 file for saving. The latest update to the comprehensive SureCuts5 user manual is at my website, iloveknk.com. After you go there, click on Support tab. Then down here under SureCuts click on this link, Support Page for SureCuts. And then under Section 2, the first link under Section 2 is the SCAL5 user manual with the last update date, in which, when I revised the last one and uploaded it. Just click on the link there and then be patient, because it can take a while to load. It's a very large PDF. And then here is, at least the first time, as you saw, it just popped up rather fast for me, but that's because I just had it open a few minutes ago. For you, it may take longer to load the first time. And then, again, don't plan to read this page to, from cover to cover, because it's too big. It's too much information, and a lot of it you may never ever need. The basically your Cuts-A-Lot is developed for many different kinds of applications. So again, just focus on learning how to use this manual to find what you want. And usually the fastest way to do that is to use a search function. If you enter Control F, for example, it pops up a little window, and you can just type in anything. You could type in select, copy, or even like the name of a function. Like, let's say I'm going to put in the word knockout, and you'll see over here there's 9 instances of it, and I can click this little down arrow and go to each location in which the word knockout has been used in the manual. And then when you do that, then you can see, you can see the section, you can read about how it works. I try to write everything very step by step, so that you can just follow along and, just have a fun example and see how everything works. There's also, throughout the manual, there's over like 150 different video links. And when you click on one of these video links, it will take you to the Scrappy-Doo classroom. And as you can see right here, it says that it's locked, and that's what's going to happen. But after you enroll in the course, then you're going to have access. And if you stay logged in, you have that option with many websites to stay logged in, then every time you click on a link in the user manual, it'll take you right to that video, and you can watch the video. And if you're interested in the video, just check out down in the description. You'll see a link in which you can sign up for it. We feel it's very reasonable price, given, again, you get over 150 videos and over 10 hours of training. So finally, I just want to thank you again for being a Scrappy-Doo customer. And again, we're eager to help you be successful, so don't hesitate to contact us when needed.